Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. You'll give me a minute because I want to set up the other recorder over here. Just bear with me. We're going to learn the Dvar Malchus now. Okay, everyone. Sorry for that. We are about to begin. For those of you who are wondering, I know I've been a little absent from the videos. Didn't do a Parsha in my life class, and I still owe you one to complete last week's. Okay, we'll get tomorrow night. Bez Hashem, we'll have the Thursday night shir, and then we're going to complete still the third class on the Maayon Godly Yebayis Ha'achron Min Harishon. So there's a lot, I'm a little backed up, I know, backlogged, but I'm here, and yeah, thank you for waiting out. Okay, we are about to continue. Last week I started the Sikh of Parshas, the Rebbe's Sikh on Parshas Devarim, 57-51. Incredible stuff about Tisha B'Av that comes out on Shabbos. This year it doesn't come out on Shabbos, but the idea is there already, and even if it comes out in the week, it should apply all the Shabbos to Ginyanim. Literally, the Rebbe blows away the darkness of Tisha B'Av. This is the last time the Rebbe spoke on Tisha B'Av. He blows away the darkness of Tisha B'Av and leaves us the purest, brightest Tisha B'Av, which is what Tisha B'Av is going to be when Mashiach comes. So last week we looked, I'm not going to review. Last week we just briefly, just an idea. Last week we learned that when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, only the negativity of Tisha B'Av gets pushed away, gets eliminated, but it doesn't eliminate everything about Tisha B'Av. It allows for the inner light and positive element of Tisha B'Av, which is really about Mashiach's birth, to shine forth. And the Rebbe explained the reason we have to say so is because there cannot be an amazing just way of looking at something. Cannot be that there should be something in the world that should interfere and get in the way of something good happening to the Jewish people. And since the pneumius of Tisha B'Av is a good thing, the birth of Mashiach, when his mazel is strong, cannot be that Shabbos, that because the calendar comes out on Shabbos, that we push away Tisha B'Av, we're going to negate that's going to diminish the light that really Tisha B'Av has. So therefore we have to say that Shabbos only does away with the negativity of Tisha B'Av. But the real pneumius of Tisha B'Av is then exposed, and all you're left with is just the good of Tisha B'Av, which is what? Mashiach's birthday. Especially since Shabbos is all about Mashiach, and Shabbos is the partner of the Jewish people, and so on and so forth. That was the germ, that was the main idea we learned last week. So now we're continuing in Siv Gimel. So the Rebbe says, this amazing idea about Tisha B'Av that falls out on Shabbos is emphasized to a greater degree in the meals that we eat on Shabbos. And again, let's apply it to the Shabbos as well, even though it's in the 9 days, so it's not on Tisha B'Av, but it applies that on Shabbos this week, when again I'm making my own adaptation to this year, even though it's not Negea to Tisha B'Av, but it's at least Negea to, let me see, the fourth day of Dalet of, which is going to be on Shabbos. The darkness of the day is going to be pushed away, and all we're going to have is the brightness of the month of, which is really about the Geula, about the redemption. But over here, he's saying it even deeper. It's even to a much greater extreme, even regarding the darkest of the 9 days, which is Tisha B'Av itself, that Shabbos just eliminates, peels away the peel of it, and uncovers the pneumius, which is the good of it. And that's primarily emphasized by the eating and the drinking of Shabbos. Because we know that on Shabbos it's a mitzvah to bring even physical pleasure and delight, that a person should delight in Shabbos through eating and drinking. And it says specifically in Shulchan Aruch, talking about eating big fish, meat, and wine. That means Shabbos we're supposed to feast. Now, that applies to every Shabbos, including when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos. You don't have to disrupt in any way, and not only that, it is not recommended that we diminish the meals of Shabbos. Even though on the 9 days usually we don't eat meat, we don't drink wine, but on this Shabbos we're supposed to. That's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. We're supposed to eat meat and drink wine. Even so much so, which we know that in the 9 days the most restrictive laws regarding partaking in a meal, eating and drinking, is the Sudas HaMafsekas, which is on Erev Tisha B'Av. The meal leading into the fast is a meal we generally sit on the floor. It is a custom to sit on the floor. We eat only one cooked dish. The custom is to eat an egg. That's what mourners eat, with a little ash. That's usually the last meal, called Sudas HaMafsekas. But when it comes out on Shabbos, so then the halacha is that you're allowed to have a huge feast. There's no restrictions on the Sudas HaMafsekas. You can eat and drink, and it says so much that you're allowed to even bring on your table such gourmet foods, and in such variation and such amounts, like King Solomon had on his table in the good days when King Shlomo HaMelech was king, and the Jews were so wealthy. As it says there in the Navi, they didn't even use nobody, not just the king. Nobody used silver. It was such a time of wealth. You can imagine what it was like, Shlomo HaMelech's table, the epitome of royalty, regality, wealth. So on Shabbos Tisha B'Av, a person is allowed to behave that way, like King Solomon, like Shlomo HaMelech. That's the halacha regarding Shabbos Tisha B'Av. Comes out, the Rebbe says, that on a fast day that comes out on Shabbos, on any fast that comes out on Shabbos, not only don't we have the affliction and that is related to fasting, which causes us to be uncomfortable and that at least physically in an unhappy state. And when Shabbos comes in a fast, we don't do that, so we do not have the discomfort. But in addition to that, on Shabbos, we actually emphasize joy and pleasure. That on the fast day itself, we have joy and we have tainuk, we have pleasure. That as coming from eating fatty meats and drinking old wine. So again, it's not just negating the negative, but it's also an emphasis on the positive. Highlighting the food, the drink, and so on and so forth. The Rebbe adds over here a very interesting note. It is possible to say that not only should we treat such a Shabbos like a regular, ordinary Shabbos and not diminish it because it's a fast. We're not allowed to do that. But even deeper than that, the Rebbe says that it's quite possible that one should try to emphasize eating and drinking on the Shabbos even more than a regular Shabbos. Because since there might be a thought by some people that you're supposed to mourn, and since it's the 9 days, since it's Tisha B'Av, and therefore it's really you shouldn't really be eating. It's just that you can't do it. So therefore, you should at least tone it down, in order that no one should say that, and that would be a desecration of the festivities of Shabbos. So in order not to do that, the Rebbe says he's not saying he's not bringing a makar lahalacha in it, but the Rebbe is saying on his own, there is room to say that on a Shabbos that comes out in a fast, we're supposed to increase so that there shouldn't even be a thought and a possibility that would decrease. So having more of a physical enjoyment. So what does that tell us? that on a Shabbos like this, the joy, there is not only isn't there any mourning, but there is also festivities. What can be the possible explanation? Why would there be festivities on such a Shabbos? And the Rebbe says not only because it's Shabbos do we have festivities, we have festivities extra because it's a fast day. In other words, the fast, he just explained that maybe one should eat more because it's a fast. So on the simple level, it's eat more, so you shouldn't, because you have to negate the fast. But on a deeper level, it's not negating the fast, but because of the fast. In other words, the fast itself should be a cause for greater festivity. Why in the world should a fast day, which is associated with negative events and negativity, be a cause for festivities and for happy things? But the answer to that is because really a fast day in its core is really positive. It's only that the outer crust is negative. A fast day, he says, Bepnimius is a good thing. The Navi refers to a fast day as Yom Rotzain, a desirable day. So sometimes we just want the fast days to go away with all that they represent. And we say, no, it's a desirable day. It's a day that contains within it Hashem's desire. So how can that be if it's all about sin and negativity and all of that? Because the pnimius of the fast day is that it should be, and not only is it that that's the way it is from God's perspective, but it's hidden from us because we commemorate the fasts in a very morbid way. It says, no, the intention is that we should blow away the external and reveal the good. That's why the final status of all these fasts is that they are going to be happy and joyous days. As we say, it says not just in Chazal, it's stated so in the Navi itself, that Yahafchu Yomim Elu, that these days will be converted to be the days of Yom Tov and Yemei Sasim V'Simcha, days of joys and days of celebration, like it's going to be when Mashiach will come. So here's the deal. Now, however, until Mashiach comes, we don't see that in the fast. That element of the fast, that it's a desirable day, is concealed and hidden from us. And if someone is going to walk around on the fast day joyous and dancing and things, he's obviously desecrating and misbehaving and not doing what, not fulfilling his or her obligation that is required on the fast day. It's a serious day. It's a day of introspection, a day of tshuva, and a day where we tone the celebrations down. But that's only when it comes out of the weekday. When it comes out on Shabbos, Shabbos reveals the desirable element of the fast. So when a fast comes out on Shabbos, not only do we have festivities because it's Shabbos, we also have festivities because it's a fast day, because inward, in the inside, fast days are also positive days. And not only that, here's an amazing thing. What do we say about a fast day? A fast day is a day, it's a Yom Ratzon, it's a desirable day. It means, at its very core, there is something extremely good and positive, an inner goodness. This day is filled with a deep, godly light. It's obscure, but it's there. See? And that godly light is called a desirable day, Yom Ratzon. Regarding Shabbos, is also a day of Ratzon. Shabbos, we say, Chemdas Yomim. It is the most desirable of days. Or in Shabbos by Mincha, we say, V'ani tfilasi l'cha Hashem. I am extending my prayer to you, God. Eis Ratzon, because it's a time of goodwill. Shabbos is an Eis Ratzon. Since Shabbos is a desirable day, Chemdas Yomim, a desirable day, that God has called it. The fast day is a desirable day. So what we call in Halacha, there was something called Matzah Min Es Minoi. That when you have two things that are equal, the same, so one can activate the other. Each one can activate and strengthen each other. If you go to a simcha, you go to a thing, and you have a certain belief system, whatever it is, or you're a certain team, or you're whatever, a certain affiliation, someone who davens in your shul. So, like this, you have a certain weakness because you're alone. You're amongst it. It's not your regular company. But when you meet an acquaintance who davens in your shul, or let's say you're the only religious person at this party, or you're the only, I don't know, political affiliation, you're the only Democrat over here, you're the only Republican conservative over here, you're the only, I don't know, whatever it is that makes you stand out and you feel a little uncomfortable in this group. And then you meet someone else who's that. So the fact that you're two together, you hook up with each other, and each one of you adds strength to the other to feel stronger. So the same is also when you have two desirable days coming together. So one emphasizes the other, intensifies the other. So the desirability of Shabbos, it activates and intensifies the desirability of the fast. It highlights it, it emboldens it, it reveals it. So Shabbos pulls it out. Again, this idea that fasts are really Yom Ratzayin is something that is camouflaged. It's concealed, it's covered up by the negativity of the day. But when it comes out on Shabbos, so two things. Not only don't we have the negativity, but the good that's in it is actually accentuated and revealed and highlighted, and therefore shines with a greater potency and revealed. So, in other words, the fast day, as it's going to be in Mashiach's days, is highlighted by Shabbos. And therefore, we find an amazing thing, that when Shabbos comes out on a fast day, since Shabbos activates the good of the fast, which is a me'ain, it's a little bit of the way the fast is going to be when Mashiach comes. A day of incredible partying, a day of unbelievable festivities. And Shabbos again is revealing it. So what it's really doing is it's empowering this element of the day, that this should become the dominant element of the day, to the point that the day should be able to shed its klipa, its shell, its externality, and the day should forever remain just a day of festivity. Because in a fast we have the inwardness is desirable and the external of it is undesirable. I don't mean, and it's undesirable for two reasons. First of all, it's a day of affliction. The fact that people are not feeling good, people have headaches, and they're bad moods because they're not eating. Plus the cause of all these things, which represent sin and our mistakes that we've made. All this is the darkness of the day, and that's why we know that on these usual days, it's not such a good omen these days. They can 9 days, 3 weeks. They're days that we're supposed to keep away from doing stuff that might be a little dangerous, because it's generally considered a black day, a dark day. So when Shabbos comes out, we don't have that. But not only don't we have it, but the fact that it comes out on Shabbos empowers the day to wiggle itself, that the day itself should be able to wiggle itself free from that external encasement. It's like it should shed the outer skin, and for its panemius to come out permanently. Where do we find that? So the Gemara says in Masechtes Megillah, the Gemara says that once Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos, and because Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos, we pushed the fast off. Rabbi HaKadosh said, and he was of the desire, and again, it's not la halacha, but Rabbi was of the desire that once it was pushed away, it should be pushed away completely. You know, Rabbi was not fond of the idea that on Tisha B'Av we should fast on Sunday. He felt that once we don't want it. No. Again, la halacha, it's not that way. When Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, we push away the fast and we fast on Sunday until Mashiach comes. Meaning until Mashiach comes, when it comes out on Shabbos, we have to we don't fast, but we bump the fast to the next day. But Rebbe wanted to do away completely. And he used the word kiven de'itchma. So what's the deeper meaning? The deeper meaning is that once Shabbos already uncovered the good of the day, why go back and bring back on the darkness? Once it's out, it's out. That's interesting. I'm going to add my own observation here. Who's the one who said that? Rebbe was the one who said that. The reason why Rebbe is the one that said that, because we know that Rebbe was considered Mashiach in his generation. His students said about him that he's Mashiach of the generation. The Gemara says that if there's someone in our generation, it has to be Rebbe. The Gemara says because he's a tzaddik gomer, he's a complete tzaddik, and he's suffering. He's having a lot of physical pain. And we know he's from Malchus. And there's a lot of indication that Rebbe was the Mashiach of his generation. Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av, meaning Mashiach if there's anybody that's the antithesis to the darkness of Tisha B'Av. What's Mashiach all about? The rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash. What's the darkness of Tisha B'Av? The destruction. Golus and the destruction. So who can't stand Tisha B'Av and everything that it represents? Rebbe, Mashiach. And therefore Rebbe wants to do it away. And that's the reason why in this Sikha the Rebbe is poking Tisha B'Av and blasting it and breaking the darkness of Tisha B'Av from all directions. All that same kind of, it's his job. It's the job of Mashiach to do that. That he doesn't tolerate Tisha B'Av and the golus, the destruction, and so on and so forth. So the Rebbe now wants to add, that's in general, that's what Shabbos does to every fast day and to Tisha B'Av. Even stronger, it is the meals of Shabbos, and amongst the meals of Shabbos, primarily the third meal of Shabbos, which more than all the, now in general, we say, what's the connection to the meals of Shabbos? Because on Tisha B'Av is Mashiach's birthday. And again, he's emphasizing why Dafka, the third meal. Because when is Mashiach born? We discussed this last week. It's later in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av. That's when we say Nachem, we begin comfort. We also know the fast lightens up then. We don't sit on the floor anymore once it becomes Chatzos. Everybody gets up, and we're a little more lenient Tisha B'Av in the afternoon, because that's already the time when Tisha B'Av is shifting. We're out of the gloom and doom of Tisha B'Av, the intensity of it at least, and we're lightening up already. And Matzah Tisha B'Av, where it's already Kiddush Levana, which is already all about the rebuilding and the birth of, all right? So therefore, Shabbos afternoon, when this, again, which would have been Tisha B'Av, so it's the after, that's mamish, the time of the birthday, especially by the Suda HaMafsekes. He says, why? Because in Bach it says, one of the halachic authorities, he says that the third meal of Shabbos, in particularly, is connected to the days of Mashiach. It's connected to the meal of the future, which is going to be the Sudas Leviyasin, the meal of the Leviyasin, and the Sheira Boyer, and the drinking of the Yayin HaMeshumar. I didn't look up the Bach. I'd like to look it up. The Rebbe says, look in Siman Reish Tzadik Hey Sif Hey in the Bach, where he makes the connection between the third meal of every Shabbos, how it's connected to the future, the meal of the future. So if that's the case, how much more so the third meal of Shabbos when it's Mashiach's birthday at the very time when Mashiach is born. So we can understand how the Shabbos Diga meal. So again, let's focus. What does it have to do? This Shabbos, when you're going to be eating your Shabbos meals, primarily the third meal, and maybe even those who don't eat the third meal usually, maybe in the 9 days, there should be a extra emphasis that we should dafka eat based on this sikha. Again, the Rebbe is speaking about Shabbos Tisha B'Av, but I would extend it for the 9 days as well. Why not? To extend the good of it, the good of the positive elements. Okay, now to emphasize this even more. Now I want to say, based on that, the Rebbe has a chap. It's a gewaldige idea. The Rebbe says, and because the meal that takes place on Shabbos Tisha B'Av, especially by the third meal, is highlighting the meals that are going to be the futuristic festivities that are going to be when Mashiach comes, we can understand the halacha that it says earlier, but we can understand a little diok, a little nuance. Again, the Rebbe is always flipping everything over. The Gemara says that what? The Shulchan Aruch says that you're allowed to, and again it comes from the Gemara, that you're allowed to bring on your table even such a royal feast, even by the Sudan of seconds, which usually, again, we said earlier, you have to be very restricted. It's almost like the fast is beginning already on Erev Tisha B'Av in the afternoon. But when it comes out on Shabbos, you're allowed to feast like King Solomon. So the Rebbe's Medayik, why does it say like King Solomon? So we would always say, you're going to make a feast like King Solomon? Who do you think you are? You're going to make a big meal. You're going to have all kinds of herrings and lox and sushi. Your Sudas Shalashudis is going to be wow. It's going to be really fantastic. But it's still not going to be like Shlomo Melech. You like Shlomo. That's how everybody learns. Similar to Shlomo. The Rebbe is learning similar the other way. No, because your meal is so much greater. Why? Because our meal is reflecting the future meal. How can you compare Shlomo Melech to the wealth that's going to be in the days of Mashiach? It's going to far surpass it. Since the meal of the Sudas HaMafsekes is connected to the Mashiach meal of the future, that's why it says you can have Kisuda, not comparing ours to Shlomo, but comparing Shlomo's meal to our meal, that his barely is going to be noticed compared to the meals of the future of Shir HaBoyer and Levi Yossin, which we are already tasting on Shabbos Tisha B'Av by Sudas HaMafsekes. That is so crazy good. That is so radical. That is so delicious. Okay. I mean both. The meal is delicious and the thoughts and the ideas are so rich. Now the Rebbe says, the truth is, the Yashleima, we can add even more in Perek Daled, that when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos and the fast gets pushed away to Sunday, comes out an interesting thing. Then we're commemorating Tisha B'Av 2 days, the 9th and the 10th. On the 9th, when it's really Tisha B'Av, we're busy feasting. And on the 10th, when it's really a day after Tisha B'Av, then we're fasting. So in a sense, the 9 days gets extended and it becomes 10 days, which one would only see as a negative. But the Rebbe sees it as a very big positive. He says, oh, wow. So you have the 9th, now you're commemorating Tisha B'Av on the 9th and the 10th. Now what's Tisha B'Av? A fast day. And it's a fast day that's taking place on the 9th and the 10th. So what does that kind of ring a bell? What does that bring to mind? It brings to mind Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is also a fast day. And we know Yom Kippur's fast day is also related to the 9th and the 10th. Because Yom Kippur is always Yom Kippur is the only fast day that when it comes out on Shabbos, we actually fast. I mean, Chazal say it regarding another fast as well, as potatoes, but that can't come out on Shabbos. But Yom Kippur literally does come out on Shabbos, and we fast. But that's all, again, that's set on the 10th day. But yet the sages tell us that Erev Yom Kippur, on the 9th day, we have a mitzvah to eat. It's a big mitzvah to have meals on Erev Yom Kippur. It's one of the days that there is a mitzvah to have a Suda. Chazal tell us that if someone eats and drinks on the 9th day of Tishrei, the pasuk considers it, Maila Olav HaKosov, the pasuk considers it as if they fasted the 9th and the 10th. They have credit not for a 1-day fast, they have a credit for a 2-day fast, the 9th and the 10th. So the Rebbe says, hey, take a look. When Tisha B'Av comes out in a year like this, so perhaps, he says, we have that kind of a quality as well on Tisha B'Av. That on Tisha B'Av too, we have eating on the 9th and fasting on the 10th. So then it will be compared and it will line up with Yom Kippur. And just like in Yom Kippur, it says that if you do that, it's as if you fasted the 9th and the 10th. So the same as on Tisha B'Av, it's as if we fasted the 9th and the 10th. Now what's so good about, we were just talking about, it's not so good fasting. And the Rebbe says, no, the fasting over here is not a fasting of affliction. It's a fasting that's associated with the non-eating of Yom Kippur. In Chassidus it says, even though the Torah calls the non-eating of Yom Kippur as an affliction, in Chassidus it says the real experience of non-eating on Yom Kippur is really because Yom Kippur is a day that we're actually touching the future. We're touching the time when we will all gradually ascend past. Our bodies will mature to the point that our bodies will be able to tap into pure divinity, and we won't have to receive our life through the medium of eating, through the medium of food. Sages tell us that in Olam Haba, in the future world, which according to the Hasidic conclusion, follows the opinion of the Kabbalists and Ramban, Nachmanides, and so on and so forth, that is reverting to a time when we're going to be living with physical bodies. And despite the fact of our physical bodies, we're not going to be nurtured by food. We're going to be able to survive, not just survive, thrive and be in our full health without eating. And we're going to because our pleasure and our delight and our stimulant of life is going to come directly from pure godliness. We won't need food. So it says all year, we don't have any, that's future. It's not related to now at all, besides once a year. Once a year, we zoom ahead in time and we're living in futuristic existence. Our bodies are tapping in, we don't have to eat. And that's the real meaning of fasting the 9th and the 10th. The fasting the 9th and the 10th of Yom Kippur is having 2 days of Olam Haba. not 2 days of affliction. What's the point of having 2 days of affliction? It's 2 days of such a heightened state. Our physical bodies are being directly nurtured by godliness. So the Rebbe says that just like we have that on Yom Kippur through eating on the 9th, it's as if we're connecting to the non-eating of Olam Haba of the 9th and the 10th, the same as on Tisha B'Av. When it comes out on Shabbos, that by eating on the 9th, we're elevated to that state of Olam Haba. The Rebbe, you know what the Rebbe just did? He took the darkest time of the year and he equated it to Yom Kippur. And he said that you have the same idea, 9th and 10th, and you're in an Olam Haba state. And he has an interesting diuk. When the pasuk says, Maila Olav HaKasa, which simply means the verse, the Torah, the verse considers it. That's how we read it. It is considered as if. But the actual translation of the words also means something. The Rebbe is learning it. Maila Olav HaKasa means the pasuk takes the person and lifts him up. Maila means to elevate. Olav, the person. The Torah elevates the human being. Where to? Into Olam Haba. So this, imagine, the Rebbe said, by feasting on Shabbos Tisha B'Av, fish and meat and fine wines, that, in other words, breaking the darkness of Tisha B'Av, highlighting just its Mashiach inside, its Geula, its inner point, which we do on Shabbos through eating and drinking, then the same quality that we have in Yom Kippur, that we're tapping into Olam Haba, to the ultimate experience of the future of godly connection, it's happening on Tisha B'Av as well. Now one will say, how in the world do you take Tisha B'Av? Good, it comes out 9th and 10th, and compare it, do some kind of a Gezerah Shav over here between the 9th and 10th of Tisha B'Av to Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the holiest, brightest day of the year, and Tisha B'Av is the darkest, most morbid, saddest day of the year. But what kind of a connection do you have between them? The Rebbe says, well, number one, it says in Tanya that all rabbinic mitzvahs are offshoots from the biblical commandments. The 613 biblical commandments, and then there are 7 rabbinic commandments. So the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that these are not just completely innovative new mitzvahs that are 2 categories: biblical, 613, 7 rabbinic. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that the rabbinic commandments are derived and they come from, they're drawn forth from the biblical commandment. That means if we have a rabbinic commandment to fast on a certain day, that includes even fast days, that the rabbinic fast days are an offshoot of the biblical fast. The only biblical fast day that we have is Yom Kippur. That means that really all of the other 4 fast days derive from Yom Kippur. So that itself already gives you a connection between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, because Tisha B'Av is rooted in Yom Kippur because it's a fast day, and its mother, so to speak, is Yom Kippur. But now the Rebbe takes it a step further. That can be said about all fast days. Which of the rabbinic fast days is the most similar to Yom Kippur? It's Tisha B'Av, because it's the only fast day that we fast not 24 hours, night and day. The other fast days are only day fasts. Yom Kippur is a night and day fast. Tisha B'Av is also. To the point that there is a Mishnah that says, Ein bein Tisha B'Av leYom HaKippurim. There is no difference. We also know that there are all the 5 afflictions similar to Yom Kippur, and that we have Bein HaShmashos, that we have to start already. The time of Bein HaShmashos, twilight, is considered already with the full seriousness, and so on and so forth. So the Gemara does a comparison between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. So therefore, if that is so halachically, halacha is only telling you, the reason why halacha is that way is because that's what its essence is. It's because Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur are deeply connected. Now, to further illustrate the connection between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, not only from the perspective of halacha, but also we find from the pnimius inyanim, from the concept behind it. Chazal tell us that the 2 greatest holidays that there were in the year, Yom Tov and Yisroel, Kechamish Asa B'Av or Yom HaKippur. Sages say that in the time of the temple, there were, even though we have many festivities, many holidays, many days of rejoicing, but the The top two, what were the top two that nothing can compare with, was Yom Kippur and the 15th of Av. Gemara goes on to explain how both of them were commemorated the same way, in which they would not just encourage, but set the stage for Jews to meet, for shidduchim to happen. The girls would dance, those who needed a shidduch would go see, and then they would do some serious matchmaking. They did it both on Yom Kippur. That, by the way, just for one moment tells you how holy and how godly we consider marriage and the attraction between men and women when it's towards marriage and for the right reason. That we would take the Yom Kippur, that's in Jerusalem, that's what they would do. But in any case, a side note, just telling you the idea of marriage from Judaism, which you see from here. In any case, the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur were the same. Okay. So first of all, we have already a comparison between Yom Kippur and 15th of Av, but the 15th of Av is not Tisha B'Av. However, the Rebbe says, really the 15th of Av, the whole Yom Tov of the 15th of Av, even on the level of Pshat, the 15th of Av is really a day of a Yom Tov and a day of celebration, because it is the completion of Tisha B'Av. In what sense? What happened on the 15th of Av? The Gemara gives 7 reasons of why they would celebrate the 15th of Av. The first, and because it's the first means it's the primary reason, was because when it was decreed upon the Jewish people to die, all the Jewish people in the desert, 40 years, that the whole generation had to die, that decree happened on Tisha B'Av, and every year Jews didn't die throughout the year. There was only once a year on Tisha B'Av. That's when all the people that were meant to die that year, those who reached the age of 60 or 59, they would dig their graves and they would die. And so it was year after year that the decree was on Tisha B'Av itself. And so you see how Tisha B'Av has always been a very dark day from the very, very inception of the Jewish people, from its very beginning. Yet, the last time when they expected the last group to die, Tisha B'Av came and went. They went into their graves, they came out, no one died. They thought they mistook the calendar, so they went in a second time, the next day. Anyways, on the 15th of Av, they saw a full moon. They said for sure that Tisha B'Av passed already. That's why they commemorate and celebrate it. So you see that the 15th of Av is commemorated because it's the rectification and the completion of the decree that happened on Tisha B'Av. It fixes Tisha B'Av. And what did the sages say? That the 15th of Av is a Yom Tov similar to Yom Kippur. So you see that since 15th of Av is really the revelation of Tisha B'Av, and so there you see how Tisha B'Av and the 15th of Av, how Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur are connected on a deeper level. Then the Rebbe explains it more mystically. He says, what really is the Yom Tov of the 15th of Av? The Yom Tov of the 15th of Av is that we have a complete moon. In Chassidus it explains, based on ideas of Eitz Chaim, of the Arizal, that the greatness of the 15th of Av is the fact that we have a full moon. And the fact of the full moon, it represents the restoration of the Davidic kingdom and the elevation of the power of divine of Malchus, of the power of Malchus in this world, which obviously its full manifestation is the Malchus of Mashiach. David Malka Mashiach. It's reaching its zenith, its completion, its fullest power on the 15th. You're going to ask the question, well then we should celebrate every 15th of every month, represents the full moon, represents the full restoration of David, like we say by Kiddush Levana. So it's explained that no, Dafka on Av. Why Dafka on Av? Because in the month of Av we have the fall of Malchus. What does it mean, destruction of Beis HaMikdash? What does it mean the Jewish people went to exile? It means Nefilas HaMalchus. It means that the kingship in this world, God's feet in this world, has fallen. It's the toppling of God's kingdom in this world. That's what the Beis HaMikdash represents. That's what the Jewish people in their land represents. So what it really means is Nefilas HaShechina, Nefilas HaMalchus, the Golus HaShechina, the consequential exile. So on Tisha B'Av, more than any other month, you have the lowest fall. If you have the lowest fall, then the elevation is to the highest, because an equivalent to the fall, so is the elevation. So when it comes to B'Av, you have Aliyas HaMalchus on the highest level. And Kabbalistically it explains, It means that Malchus, which is the lowest Sphira attribute, the most imminent in this to the world, the closest to us, is elevated and infused with the innermost of God Himself, which is called Aliyas HaMalchus B'Pnimiyas HaKeser. That the Malchus achieves a union. Malchus is feminine. The transcendental element of God is referred to as masculine. The fusion, which represents a full moon, the unification of the two, and Malchus receiving the full light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on the highest level, which means that Malchus is receiving from Pnimiyas HaKeser. That's the Pnimiyas, that's the real idea of the Yom Tov of Tu B'Av. That's why we make Shidduchim, because it emphasizes the perfect unity of the masculine and the feminine in the purest and holiest way. So this is on Tu B'Av. Now, Yom Kippur is the same idea, because Yom Kippur, we know, is also Aliyas HaMalchus. One of the things we know by Ni'ila, Yom Kippur, the conclusion of this, is that that's the time when Malchus is elevated. That's why it's such a time of connection. Ni'ila Hashem, as the Rebbe explains what Ni'ila means, God closes the doors and the Jews are in the inside. We are Malchus, and we are brought into the innermost. So the Rebbe is explaining how Tisha B'Av, which expresses itself in Tu B'Av, and Yom Kippur are really the same idea. Aliyas HaMalchus, the elevation of Malchus to the highest level. This is, where do you see it in Yom Kippur? This Gilui of Mashiach, the Gilui, because Yom Kippur is also called Achas B'Shana. It's the one time of the year, and we know that in Yom Kippur we daven 5 prayers, because in Yom Kippur the deepest point level of our neshama is revealed, called Yechida. The Yechida of our neshama is revealed. That's where the atonement comes from, the part where we are completely one with God. And we know that Mashiach is Yechida. He's the Yechida of the Jewish people. So what is Yom Kippur really all about? Mashiach is exposed. Same idea of Tu B'Av, that Mashiach is revealed. That's why these two are so deeply connected. That's the relationship of Tu B'Av to Yom Kippur, the 15th of Av, Tezvav B'Av, to Yom Kippur. Now, since Tezvav B'Av is really just a revelation of what really Tisha B'Av is all about, but it's when Tisha B'Av comes out during the week, it's concealed. It's only revealed 6 days later, on the 15th of Av. We have to wait till the 15th of Av to reveal what really the fall of Tisha B'Av was. It was a preparation for the greatest elevation. As we say many times, the destruction was for the sake of the rebuilding. The demolition wasn't demolition. It was just part of the construction work. The constructing of the third Beis Hamikdash required us to demolish the second temple, or the first temple. But what do we see? We see demolition. That's an irregular year. But when it comes out on Shabbos, since Shabbos, pushes away the darkness, so we don't see any of the darkness. All we have is just the Pnimi. So we have already the elevation of the 15th of Av. We have it already on Shabbos, on Tisha B'Av itself. And therefore we can apply the idea that when you eat and drink on the 9th, when Tisha B'Av comes out on Shabbos, and you eat and drink on the 9th, it's as if you fasted on the 9th and on the 10th. The same like in Kippur. But one point which I left out, which is very important. The Rebbe says, and this is so classical, the Rebbe says, well, since we're expecting Mashiach to come, since it's Mashiach's birthday, and waiting for Mashiach to come mamish today, so the Rebbe is talking to us on that day. He says, we're expecting Mashiach to reveal himself mamish now. So what am I saying now? That on Tisha B'Av, if you eat, it's as if you fasted the 9th and the 10th. Well, if Mashiach is going to come today, we're not going to fast tomorrow, we're not going to fast on Sunday. As a matter of fact, Tisha B'Av will never be a fast anymore. So what does it mean when we're fasting the 9th and the 10th? So the Rebbe says, no. What it really means is we're going to have the mila, the quality of fasting on the 2 days. It's going to be considered as if we fasted, which, as we explained earlier, means the experience of olam haba when we don't need to eat. But at the same time, it's also going to have the quality of eating. It's going to have both. Because what are we, Papoil Mamish, in literal sense, what are we going to do? We're going to eat the 9th and we're going to eat the 10th as well. And that eating is going to be the highest kind of eating. What kind of eating is it going to be? It's going to be the eating of Mashiach's meal. Shai Raboyer, Leviasan, that's going to be the highest type of eating. Similar to the Jews on Yom Kippur, there was one Yom Kippur that the Jewish people ate and drank, and that was when they inaugurated the first Beis Hamikdash. It came out during the week of Yom Kippur, and they canceled the fasting. So they ate and they drank. So the Rebbe says, Tisha B'Av, the 10th day. So you see that it's possible that in Yom Kippur, number 10, which is Yom Kippur, again, the 9th and the 10th of Yom Kippur, even though usually it's always a fast, but there was one time when it was connected to the building of the Beis Hamikdash that they ate on the 10th. So it's possible that we're going to have a 9th and a 10th in which we're going to partake in eating, not in non-eating, and it's going to be similar to the eating of the Beis Hamikdash, but even greater. Because over there, it was only pushed off for one Yom Kippur, and then Yom Kippur continued fasting. But in our case, it's going to push away the fast of Tisha B'Av forever. But at the same time, it's also going to have the quality of not eating. So it's both. The Maila of not eating, which is the time of Olam Haba, and the Maila and the quality of eating, which is the time of... He adds another idea. The connection. So again, he built the case very strongly of how Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur are really, and the 9th and 10th of Tisha B'Av and Yom of can compare to the 9th and 10th, because we said earlier how Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur are so deeply related. Another idea that he brings out regarding that, which is fascinating, is that we know that right after Tisha B'Av comes 7 weeks of comfort. How long do the 7 weeks of in which every Shabbos we say a special Haftarah? Till when does that extend? Until Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah already, we're saying, after Rosh Hashanah we start already a new series of Haftarah, which means that the period of Tisha B'Av extends all the way to Rosh Hashanah. Now Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the Rebbe says, are really one inyan. In Chassidus it explains that Yom Kippur is not something other than Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur is the pnimius, it's the soul of Rosh Hashanah. So since Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah are really one, and Tisha B'Av's impact goes until Rosh Hashanah, so again over here you see the relationship between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. Now, to add to that, he says, is the idea that one of the things about Yom Kippur, what do we say about why is Yom Kippur such a great day? Hashem forgave the Jewish people, but also because Hashem gave Moshe Rabbeinu the second tablets. Moshe Rabbeinu brought down the Torah. In other words, the completion of Matan Torah. It's the completion of the giving of the Torah. That is connected also to Tisha B'Av. In what sense? When the giving of the Torah completed on Yom Kippur is associated with the 40 days. 40 days beginning Rosh Chodesh Elul, concluding Yom Kippur. That 40 days comes in connection to the previous 40 days. When Moshe Rabbeinu, when the Jewish people were doing tshuva, and Moshe Rabbeinu was pleading and begging for God for forgiveness up there, for the sin, which began when? On the 17th of Tammuz, which 17th of Tammuz and Tisha B'Av are deeply connected. Because the 17th of Tammuz is the beginning of the 3 weeks, Tisha B'Av is the conclusion of it. So you see how these 40 and these 40 are related one to each other, which are all part of one long period of 120 days, 3 times 40 of the giving of the Torah. First 40 days when Hashem gave before the sin, second 40 days during the time of the repair, and the last 40 days which concluded with complete forgiveness. So you see, Tisha B'Av, Yom Kippur, they're on the same wavelength. And therefore the idea of the 9th and the 10th of Yom Kippur can be applied to Tisha B'Av as well. So you have the 9th and the 10th as the ultimate. Okay. So we're going to leave it over here. And as a Hashem, next week, let's do this class. I want to do it, but since Wednesday night, hopefully already is going to be the third Beis Hamikdash, we're going to dance and sing and have unbelievable festivities on Tisha B'Av. So let's chap the shir on the Tuesday night. Maybe then we'll also be already in the state of festivities. But next week, let's move it for Tuesday. Everyone should have a really good Shabbos and only the best.